Hello, my name is Riley Hanna, and I'm a student at West Virginia University. Currently, in my Professional Sales 2 course, we participated in the Sales for Scouts project this semester, which I'm going to tell you a little more about. So, for some background information on this project, we were raising money for the Trailblazer program, which is an adaptive learning program that allows kids to participate in activities such as adaptive archery training, zip lining, and other activities to help them achieve that I can do it mindset. Sales for Scouts was a project that my class and I participated in which we raised money for disabled children to attend Boy Scout camp and partake in these activities. With all of the extra staffing and equipment, it costs around $2,000 to send a kid to camp. And I just think it's really great that we are supporting such a great cause while developing our sales skills. I also think it's really great that we are able to send these kids to camp, speaking that I feel like their parents might be overwhelmed with medical bills and extra care. So just to send their kids to this camp free of charge is just a really awesome cause. So I began my sales process by prospecting. I started off by creating a prospect list of 30 people, most of which I found through LinkedIn. I looked for a lot of WVU alum, people that had previously been a Boy Scout, and then I added some friends and family on there as well. I then found their phone numbers through Zoom Info with the help of my sales manager. Then I kept an updated prospect list on an Excel spreadsheet, including their name, their email, their phone number, their job title, location of work, and connection to the project. I also ended up adding in a called section just to keep myself organized if I had called them yet or not, if they answered, and also a donation section just so I could put if they had donated or not, just to keep myself organized. So, the next part of the sales process that I took on was the introductory email/DM. I started by creating an email to inform prospects about the project. I made a few different versions of this email, one for WVU grads where I threw in like a Let's Go Mountaineers at the end, one for my friends and family, and then one for those who were associated with the Boy Scouts. So it was more of including that they may be interested in supporting this cause. In the email, I let them know that I was going to be calling them, and ultimately, it was just a heads up as to who I am, what the project is about, and shifting that call from a cold call to more of a warm call by giving them the information ahead of time. So, for what I learned while prospecting and sending out these introductory emails, what worked really well for me was I was able to find many WVU grads through LinkedIn. I feel like WVU grads love to support current WVU students. And then the use of ChatGPT to help develop these professional emails to send out to my prospects, and also the help of Zoom Info in finding most of the phone numbers that I needed. And then what I found difficult was many people did not respond to the email. Maybe they didn't see it, maybe they hadn't read it yet, but it did shift some of my calls to cold calls instead of warm calls and them having that information prior. And then in the end, I was missing still a few phone numbers that I was not able to find through Zoom Info, in which I tried to find on my own but was unsuccessful. So, for the next step in the sales process, we began cold calling. I developed a script to give me a general agenda for the conversation, and then I began to cold call my prospects. I would open up the call by saying I'm working on two major projects for my class. Firstly, learning about their career and their journey in the workforce thus far, and then secondly, informing them about our Scouts project. So, first, I would ask about their career journey, any advice that they may have for me. And I truly listened while they talked and really tried to make the conversation about them. And then towards the end, I would shift and discuss more about the project and then finally ask them for the donation. So, for what I learned while cold calling, what worked really well for me was making an agenda for the call, basically calling and introducing myself, explaining that I was working on those two major projects. I wanted to ask about them and I wanted to inform them about the project. And then ultimately saying that I would take about 10 to 15 minutes of their time. And then finding a connection or similarity with the prospect. If they were a WVU grad, asking about their time at WVU, or if they were in a sales based career, telling them that I was interested in working in sales. So getting them to open up more about that. And also having respect for their time. I feel like that's a big one. And then what I found difficult was really getting people to answer the phone. I understand that everyone is busy, but that was a big challenge. Keeping them on the phone and getting them to give you their time. Sometimes I would get people to answer, but they would say it's not a good time right now. They're kind of busy with work, so they would get back to me. And then another big one was getting people to follow through with donating after claiming that they would. I feel like that was challenging for me. I had 3 to 4 people where I had great conversations with them for like 30 to 45 minutes. They said they would donate and then they never donated. So that was discouraging. So, as far as what I could have done better for this project, I could have been more persistent. I hit probably about half of my goal and then I slacked for a couple weeks. So I wish I would have kept calling through those weeks and stayed more persistent throughout the project. I wish I would have brought in my prospects list when people weren't answering the phone after multiple tries. And I also wish I would have made a schedule as far as how many calls that I intended to make per week. I feel like that would have helped me stay a lot more on track and not slacked as much. So, for the last step in the sales process, I sent out thank you messages. I tried to personalize each message to the donor. I would send out messages thanking them, showing appreciation, and reinforcing their impact for these scouts. I sent most of these over text message just because the link would typically be right above. So I would say hello and put their name, and they would have a more general remembrance of who I was just because the link would be right above. So for my victories within doing this project, I reached my goal, thankfully. I was able to make new connections that could help in my future career path. I strengthened my prospecting and cold calling skills, as well as making an impact for these scouts and helping out a great cause.